Good morning, everyone. Beautiful autumn morning. And as we prepare for our meditation, as we do a lot, I invite you to sit comfortably in a space, in a place that feels secure, knowing that that place is sacred, just from your being there. And breathing in deeply. Maybe closing your eyes, just focusing inward, just breathing in deeply and allowing that breath to just feed every part of your body, to nurture every cell and every fiber of your body. Just feeling grounded, centered, and focused. Feeling just comfortable, just where you are. And so this month, the theme has been about being compassionate conduits. And I'd like to do something that puts that compassion into practice. So I'd invite you now, however you think of compassion for yourself, for others and for the world. Let's breathe in this idea of love, of wonderment, breathing in joy, breathing in life, breathing in beauty. Just breathing in, knowing our divinity, knowing our connection to life. And breathing in this loving kindness, this compassion, this non-judgment that sees us as we are the observer. I don't know if it's good and I don't know if it's bad, but just knowing the truth of our being, that we are this infinite creative power and source, that we are God made manifest. So we continue breathing in. And let's immerse and surround ourselves in this idea. Not just this idea, but this reality of compassion for ourselves. Let's just continue and experience this. Just let this flow, feel it flowing through your body, feel it flowing around you, in every part of you. And we're in this wonderful season of autumn, a time of release and surrender, of letting go. And we watch the trees around us and their beauty and their splendor and their color, letting go of their leaves. And we know we're moving into this period of reflection. But for right now, I invite you to imagine yourself as a tree. Imagine you're in a forest of trees that all have their beautiful shapes and sizes and colors. Imagine the colors of your leaves. It can be whatever you want. They don't have to be traditional. They can be purple or chartreuse, mocha leaves, whatever color represents the beauty that you are, a deep inner knowingness that you are, is reflected out in your tree, in the leaves and the colors of your tree. You're magnificent, strong, powerful, and radiant. You're firmly rooted and grounded in the earth, and yet reaching upward into the sky. So flexible. Trees shed their leaves as part of the cycle of renewal. Our bodies are constantly shedding old cells and creating new ones. We do this in order to grow. We release that which we no longer need. In order to evolve, we let go of those things, those patterns, those thoughts or ideas that no longer serve us. Continuing to breathe in deeply to this idea of your magnificence as this tree. Knowing that autumn is the time of year, and trees remind us to let go as a means of renewal, for new growth, for expansion. We know that the ground will become rich from these leaves. They're a natural fertilizer. Our inner garden, our divine inner beauty, also becomes rich from this process. Letting go requires us to face our fears of the future, stepping out into the unknown sometimes, having faith, the faith of God in us, as us, is us. Through this process, we are renewed and made whole. We trust and surrender, knowing spring will surely come. And compassion is a part of this process. As we have felt and breathed in this compassion, this idea of compassion, we breathe this in now. Breathe this in. Just feeling this tree, just feeling this great compassion for the earth and our part and our connection to it. Being in the midst of this forest with all the beauty that surrounds us. Now our tree is inviting us to let go of what no longer serves us. Turning inward, our leaves will make a magnificent exit in a burst of fabulous colors, sights, sounds. You can smell and feel the crispness in the air. In loving, compassionate acceptance, start letting your leaves go. Imagine your tree releasing its beauty without any kind of judgment. Call to mind that which no longer serves you. Maybe it's some kind of discomfort that you feel in your body. Have a willingness to let that go. Release those leaves. Through this process, deep breathing in deeply every time we're letting go. We're breathing in this recognition and this realization of the truth of our being, having great compassion for ourselves, great love and understanding. Letting go of those fears, not as them being good or bad, just as a revelation. Fear as a way of knocking and letting us know that something else deeper is going on. But having a willingness to let go of any kind of grip that it might have on us. Just releasing that fears. Releasing this idea of mistakes that we've made in the past. Things that we've said maybe in anger or resentment and wasn't necessarily our intention. Or maybe we had no intention. But we let go of these thoughts, let go of things that others have said to us that have harmed us in a way. Letting we know that we're spiritual, divine beings, and that's the truth and the essence of who we are. So anything else we can let go of. We can let go of any sense of anguish. We can release things in our lives that no longer serve us. They could be physical patterns, physical things that we're willing to let go of, to allow the new growth. Cleaning out, tidying up. Just feel that, how good that feels to release and let go of what no longer serves us. Let go of these ideas of coulda, shoulda, woulda. Let go of any thought that tells us that we're not worthy. We're worthy just by nature of being here, by our agreement to come into this earth, place, and space, being so grounded and rooted in this, knowing that all life is expressing as God. We're expressing as God with our beautiful tree, just releasing and feeling how good that feels to let go. Any kind of burdens that you may have been shouldering, any ideas of stresses in this wonderful year of 2020 when so much is being revealed, so much feels like chaos going on in our world, in our political system, and just having this willingness to release and let go of any angst or anxiety around that. Know that the divine is showing up in each and every one of us, that we all have things to share, that we all have commonality that we share with each other. So just any frustrations that you may have felt, just continuing to breathe in and let that go. If you can let go anything in childhood trauma, of where that child wasn't nurtured and nourished, knowing that we're doing that and giving that gift to ourselves now, letting go of anything that didn't serve the child or the teenager. Maybe even a young adult, or it's not serving you now, just breathing in and feeling so good. Feeling this sense of compassion for all of these things in your life. And just in a way that is non-judgmental, letting them go. This is the art of compassion. This is what we're giving to ourselves. This is what we're feeling right now in this moment. As I release and let go any idea of jealousy, any idea or angst or anger, any frustration, any way of disconnect, of discord, of dis-ease. I let go of all of these ideas. I see them flowing down to the earth. Continuing to breathe in, continuing to feel the magnificence of what we are, of going through this process of releasing. Here on the East Coast, this such a beautiful time of year, just a beautiful time to connect with nature and to feel yourself a part of that, to be part of this sanctuary, which is nature, which nourishes the ground and the earth. And we're doing our part now, letting go and making room, letting go and releasing, letting go and opening up, being so flexible, just feeling that wind against us, just feeling the way that it feels, the way it feels to a tree, how alive we are, how much a part of life we are. Being so grateful for this time of letting go, and just letting go in terms of gratitude, seeing gratitude with every release, with every release of every leaf. You feel a sense of gratitude and well-being. Just coming into focus and alignment with this. And being grateful for the ability to let go, being grateful to breathe in deeply and to dare to go to those places and spaces inside which are not always comfortable or comforting. And yet we know the truth of our being, our divine essence. And therefore, these thoughts and these patterns we can release and let go. Knowing that we're serving a higher purpose, that we're choosing to look beyond this. We're choosing to let that go in a way that feels safe and secure and is so sacred. All this work we do, all this compassion we give to ourselves and others is a sacred bond that we have, that we share with this earth, in this time, in this place. Just breathing in and allowing myself to feel contented, to feel nourished. And now is a time that we also remember the trees shed all of their leaves. not just the ones they don't want, with no judgment of whether it's good or bad. Each leaf has provided the tree with something. So I invite you now to turn inwards and just release our leaves of love. Call up those places and spaces in your heart, those spaces of love. And letting go. Letting go your joy and watching it fall to the earth and nurture the earth, nurture yourself. Just have this sense of surrender and trust. Releasing the beauty of who you are. Releasing your bliss. Releasing your light. Releasing your laughter and your wonderful, delightful nature. Releasing your abundance. Breathing in and releasing prosperity for yourself, for the earth, for all of life to be nurtured. Breathing in and releasing a sense of contentment, this feeling of being whole, perfect, complete. Breathing in and releasing the divinity that you are, the magnificence you are. Releasing creative potential, infinite creative potential. Releasing any tears of joy and laughter, of sadness, and also recognizing in our release that there may be grief. And that's okay to sit with. That's okay for that to be a part of any kind of process. Being okay with whatever emotion comes up. It's part of our spiritual experience as divine human beings. And just right now, as the magnificence of this tree, of this divine idea of releasing and letting go, of coming into alignment with the beauty and the wholeness of our nature. Just feeling ourselves as the beautiful spiritual beings that we are. Let's continue to send out these leaves of love to nourish and nurture the earth and all of life. As we do this, we're adding to the collective consciousness, this expansion, this evolution, this upward spiral of connectivity. And as we do this, we give others permission to express themselves in ways that are whole and wholesome and loving and divine, that feed us and nurture and nourish us. We are this infinite creative potential and source. We're resonating in this earth plane vibration and space and harmony. Breathing in and giving that gift to ourselves. Releasing with gratitude, letting our heart be filled with compassion, this gratitude of knowing our divinity, of seeing ourselves in wholeness and light, of being grateful for this time and experience in nature as this tree, in this space and this place of holiness, just feeling this sacredness, feeling this divinity, giving gratitude and thanks for it, coming into alignment, allowing ourselves and our bodies and our minds, our emotions, to be in perfect alignment. Knowing that there's only one life and it's expressing in us and through us and as us, with us, by us, for us, because it is us. It is us in our body. It is us as trees. It is us as nature. I give gratitude and thanks for this today. I give gratitude and thanks for this time of meditation, of coming together, of sharing time, of sharing space, of release and surrender and trust. It's all good. It's all God unfolding. All is well. All is well in my world now, and it feels good and so good. I'm so grateful. I release and let go, and so it is.
Good morning. I heard you. Morning, everyone. Hope all is well. Hope all is well and well and well. Okay. Alrighty, so welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Baltimore's virtual service. I am Tracy Rhymes, your host. Our senior minister, Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, is our speaker for today. He will deliver another powerhouse message. Our musician today, Celia Farron, woke up early to be with us today. Serving as practitioner who led the pre-service meditation is one of the hardest working women in CSL, Sue Monahan. Our sign language interpreters, assisting with making this service open, inviting, and accessible to the deaf community are Deidre Wilcher and Sonia Chavis. Working behind the scenes, holding things down, making sure things flow smoothly are Frank and Jim. Woo! Thank you all for your service. All right, so before Sue comes and grounds us in prayer, let me share some things about her. Sue has been part of this teaching since 2004. She has been a practitioner since 2013. Sue believes that we are the point of power in our lives, that our essence is spiritual, and it is good. It is her desire to let Spirit reveal this wonderful truth through her. Sue is committed to CSLGB's vision that we are demonstrating a world that works for all. One life affirming thought, word, feeling, deed, and one human interaction at a time. We all make a difference in other people's lives. May our light shine for all to see.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. So grateful to be here on this beautiful morning. Wow, that was a fantastic song. Thank you, Celia. That just opened me up. It felt so good. So I invite you all to just breathe in deeply. Breathe in wherever you are in that place and space, knowing that it's sacred, knowing that you are this divine essence, understanding and recognizing that there's one power, one infinite creative source and potential of all life, and that it is our life. It is what we are. And so today, that's how we show up in our beautiful, radiant, glorious divinity. We are the delight of the divine, and it shows. Just being grateful to be here today for this Zoom platform that allows us to stay in community, to stay in service. Grateful for Frank and Jim, for Tracy, for all the work that is done, for our wonderful musician, for our sign language interpreters. Grateful for coming together today to hear this message from our senior minister, Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I'm so grateful. Just opening up to the power of this service, the power of this word, and of being together in community. It's all good. It's all God. I release and let go. I trust and surrender. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sue. We're ready. Okay. So, the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Baltimore's community honors the world's religions. One tree, many branches. One mountain, many paths. One world, many religions and spiritual traditions. With the lighting of these candles on the first Sunday of each month, we not only honor each person on their select path, but we also bless them and recognize the light, the love, and the life-affirming nature of spirit as it shows itself in each path, in each practice, and in each person. I have a few announcements for you. We currently have 2 weekly ongoing ways to study, learn, and discuss. On Wednesday nights, the Science of Mind textbook exploration group, facilitated by Reverend Dr. Ray. And another opportunity on Thursday nights, the study group facilitated by Dr. Ronnie Ellington. Here's a friendly reminder for you that the 2021 spiritual journals are in. You can get your copy today by going to shop.csl.org. Membership. If you are interested in becoming a member or renewing your membership, the Discovery class is available online. Contact us at info@cslgreaterbaltimore.org for more information. Sign up for the CSLGB newsletter. And you could do that by going to cslgreaterbaltimore.org for more information. Subscribe to CSLGB's YouTube page and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You visit the CSL Greater Baltimore, and the CSLGB Facebook page for more news and information. Board meeting today. Everyone is encouraged to attend if at all possible. And if you've never attended a board meeting, maybe you want to stop by to see how things go. Alrighty. You know the routine. If this is not your first time with us, if it's your first time with us, on 3, we say it together. That prayer works. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Prayer works. There you go. There you go. There you go. Now, we as a community, we continue to treat and move our feet, knowing the truth for everyone around the planet. Practitioners are available after today's service for one-on-one prayer, and prayer requests can be sent at any time. Did you hear that? At any time to info@cslgreaterbaltimore.org. Send them in. The practitioners will pray for and with you. All right. No, enough of my singing. Y'all want to hear a real powerhouse. So, now, allow me to tell you about our guest musician. Celia Farron travels the globe with her inspirational music, comedy, and sound healing. She has opened for notable authors such as Neil Donald Walsh, Mariam Williamson, Dr. Masuru Emoto, Donna Eden, and Swami Bhyanananda. Mariam Williamson, author of A Return to Love, says, Celia's music calls women to their glory and men to their hearts. Woo! Ricky Byers says, Celia Farron owns the stage. To learn more about her, visit www.celiaonline.com. Come on, Celia. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Celia. Okay. So at this time, Sue Monahan will lead us in a spiritual practice.
Thank you. So I invite you to just get comfortable right where you are. Breathing into this divine moment in this sacred space. Just breathing in this idea. Our monthly talk is about compassion. Just breathing in this idea of compassion for yourself. Just breathing in deeply. Taking in all the goodness of this breath. Letting it fill you up. You're so worthy to receive this. Because you are this. You are the divine in action. And yesterday, when I was thinking about what I was going to do for my spiritual practice today, and looking on the internet, Frank had posted something that was written by Ernest Holmes called, I Keep the Promise. And I just felt this sense of compassion wash over me. So I want to read that for your contemplation today as we do this spiritual practice together. It's called I Keep the Promise. I shall keep the promise that I made to myself. I shall never again tell myself that I am poor, sick, weak, nor unhappy. I shall not lie to myself anymore, but shall daily speak the truth to my inner soul, telling it that it is wonderful and marvelous, that it is one with the great cause of all life, truth, power, and action. I shall whisper these things into my soul until it breaks forth into songs of joy, with the realization of its limitless possibilities. I shall assure my soul. So breathing into this moment, just knowing the truth of our divinity. Each breath a gift of life, and we are the divine expressed in form. This feels so good. This feels so good to acknowledge. Feels so good to know. Feels so good to embody. So grateful for this day. All is well, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Sue. All righty. I'm sure you're all geared up and all ready for a powerhouse message. It's time to hear from our senior minister at the Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Baltimore. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson has frequently been referred to as a Renaissance man. One look at his resume and the reason becomes clear. As a lifelong learner with a passion for self-development, personal transformation, transmutation, and self-awakening, he lives his bliss as a teacher, mentor, speaker, minister, and so much more. His mission is to live, move, and be an active, that's an acronym, authentic, compassionate, transparent, inspired, vibrant, and empowered member of society who serves to educate, elucidate, emancipate, awaken, and empower people and communities. Reverend Ray, come drop that science.
I guess today we're talking about molecules then.
Yes. What is a molecule?
Messing with me.
How do you even say
See?
Is that word?
Yeah, there you go, Tracy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well.
So good morning and greetings, everyone. So we're going to just jump right on in because the subject of today is a rather meaty one. It's one that has great substance. So I want to give us time to marinate on some of these ideas.
Molecules.
So the title today is How Engaged is God as Us? Sounds like a trick question, but let's venture a little further. That which we call God is living out life perfectly as us. It is experiencing life as we experience life. It is experiencing itself as us as we live and experience life. The only way that Spirit has of bringing forth values for a world that works for everyone is through us as we live and express these values. Breathe. Let's remember, if I'm not mistaken, I mentioned it last week. I've mentioned it quite a few times by now. Those who are frequent flyers with us will remember that Ernest Holmes reminds us that the only God we will truly know, K-N-O-W, the only one that we will truly know is the one that we embody. Because there's no anthropomorphic separate deity. So if we want a world that works for everyone, and we are bringing these values, then it is not God is giving this value. It is us bringing these values. It is us expressing these values. And in us bringing it and being it, then we demonstrate, manifest a world that works for all. But let us continue. Spirit is 100% engaged with and as us. The question is, are we 100% engaged with and as Spirit? Or are we more invested in our engagement in the world?
Ooh.
Pause and breathe.
Pick up my feet on that one.
I don't know if y'all can hear Tracy. She's talking about pick up my feet on that one. Today, we are invited to move our light from under a bushel and let it shine for all the world to see. So if you remember last week, if you were here with us, and keep in mind you can always go back and watch the recording, but one of the things we did, we talked about this idea of which one is more spiritual, a rose or a $100 bill. Well, we're still in that question in the idea of we are in this world but not of this world. Now, a lot of people use that as a way of saying, which we're going to get to, of saying that there's this separation between. But if we're recognizing that God is all there is, God is all in all, there is nowhere that God is not, or as we say, there's not a spot where God is not. It is everything and everywhere. Then God is this world. God is every blade of grass. God is the chemical component of concrete. Like God is all of it. So then so when we say we are in this world but not of it, what are we saying? Are we saying that there is something that is worldly or secular or not divine and sacred, and then there is that which is? No, we're acknowledging that all of it is sacred and all of it is divine. So then being not in the world is this recognition that we live based on spiritual truths and not the paradigms of duality, separation, and lack. Because the world, the mass consciousness, the collective consciousness, the race consciousness, is what we typically are referring to by the world. And race consciousness, mass consciousness, that says, I am separate from. When I am experiencing this thing called illness or disease, then it's like it's what I am. That's why we say my cold. I have a cold. My back pain, etc., etc. But think about it for a second. If you go outside and you're standing near your mailbox and there's a puddle and a car rushes by and splashes all this mud and dirty water and it splashes, you should see Tracy's face right now, and it splashes all over you. Now, Tracy walks in the house with all this stuff dripping off of her, and I say, Tracy, what's wrong? What happened? And she says, I'm dirty. I'm filthy. I'm wet. Is she stating something that is an eternal truth, meaning she will continue to be dirty, filthy, and wet? Or does she say, this is an experience that I have right now, and because of how much I don't like this experience, I'm going to go wash? Well, what if it's the same way with illness and poverty and war and strife? It's an experience that because we don't like it, we are called to cleanse it, we are called to transform it, we're called to change it, because we understand that we are not bound by precedent. Precedent says, I'm dirty, I'm wet. But principle says, but there is a method of cleansing yourself. There is a method of coming back to the truth of your being. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about this idea of not being in the world, or not being of the world per se. Like, I'm not bound by. I walk amongst all of these folks. I engage in politics and engage in education and engage in the judicial system and engage in all of these things, but I'm not bound by what the consciousness of this collective says. So I can walk in the world. I can walk amongst those who believe in duality and scarcity and lack and dis-ease and etc. I can walk amongst them. But I know that there is this truth that also keeps me grounded in knowing who and what I am and who and what they are, even though they may not know. There are many spiritual folks, because we know that there are some of those folks who, like last week, Dana said, take the quotation marks off of spiritual. But we know that there are some spiritual folks who, back when I was a fundamental Christian, we would say, you are so spiritually minded that you're no earthly good. Like, you are so above everything and everyone that you're not really able to do anything to help anybody.
Well,
so being spiritual doesn't mean pulling away from the world. It means mastering it. It means engaging in it. When people say, I'm too spiritual to watch the news, I'm too spiritual to concern myself with worldly matters like racism and sexism and political corruption and xenophobia and children in detention centers in cages or in cells. I'm too spiritual to concern myself with that. I only deal with those who have good vibes. Keep your negative vibes to yourself. I meditate every day, all day. I know that the glory of God is where and who I am. Don't bring your negative stuff around me. Tracy's laughing at me right now. But those folks who do that, in essence, in reality, what they're doing is hiding their light. They're burying their light and refusing it, and they're not even aware that they're refusing to actually let their light shine because they're disengaging from, they're separating, they're identifying that spirituality, being spiritual, and being in the world, they're two separate things. Like, I can't be spiritual and engage in politics, engage in the education system that my grandchildren go to. I can't be spiritual and Black Lives Matter. I can't be spiritual and want LGBTQ people to have equality and justice. I can't do both. Really? So we have some people say, I should say something, but I'm not, because I'm too spiritual. I don't involve myself with stuff like that. I stay in my lane, and that's it. The path of inner peace begins with 4 words, not my beep problem. I've had people have this conversation with me that they are so spiritual that that's not my problem. That's not my level of minding my business is so out there that I'm like celestial Christ consciousness that the world is burning down around me and I'm having fun because I'm one with God. Really?
Really?
Like for real? Like, that's how you're identifying what it means to be a spiritual person, to separate yourself from the world and from the needs of others. Well, if Mr. Miyagi had had that idea of Daniel getting beat up and bullied is not my problem, I'm going to mind my business and stay in my lane, then he would have never interceded and helped Daniel. He would have never stepped in to protect Daniel. He would have never stepped in to teach Daniel. Because it's not his problem. It's none of his business. Yoda would have never taught Luke. He would have never made the X-Wing fighter raise out of the bog. It's not my problem, dude. Figure it out yourself. There's a Bible passage where God asked Cain, where is Abel? Cain said, I don't know. Then he goes on and says, so am I my brother's keeper? Which, in essence, what he is saying is, whatever's going on with my brother is not my problem. It has nothing to do with me. But the question for us is your brother or your sister or your siblings' problems, issues, worth us being involved in, worth us stepping in and interceding? Is it worth? Are they worth helping? Or are we too spiritual to step in and assist? There's a passage in the Bible where Jesus is telling the disciples, so I was hungry and you fed me, I was naked and you clothed me, I was a stranger and you took me in, etc. And the disciples say, when did this happen? We don't remember you being naked, hungry, or a stranger, or we don't remember any of that. And Jesus reminds them, whenever you did it to any of these others, then you did it for me. So we say namaste, we bow, and we do all this spiritual stuff. We practice ho'oponopono. We do all this spiritual stuff. We light incense, all this spiritual stuff. We have a singing bowl, spiritual stuff. We have prayer beads, spiritual stuff. But if we are not engaged in the world and not helping anyone, if we are not engaged in the world and shifting the consciousness, if we are not engaged in the world and clothing and feeding and healing and helping those other folks who are naked and hungry and ill and in prison, etc., then what is the point of our spiritual practice? Why be oh, I get it. You are spiritual for your own gratification. You're not spiritual to transform the world. You're spiritual because it feels good to you. Well, just an FYI, that's called spiritual masturbation. It feels good to you. It's not helping anyone else, just you. That's not a world that works for all. So our invitation is, are we willing to engage? Are we willing to step in and treat and move our feet? Are we willing to be the example? Are we willing to step in? Hebrews 13, 1 through 3 says, continue, and I know it's gender specific, but let us go beyond the gender specificity. Continue in the love of all humanity. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have actually entertained angels and had no idea that that's who these strangers were. Remember those in prison as if you are bound in prison with them. And remember those who are mistreated as if you were suffering with them. What is this talking to? Being empathic, being and having empathy to such a degree that I understand that no, I am not my brother's keeper, I am not my sister's keeper, I am not my sibling's keeper. I am my brother, my sister, my sibling. I am them, they are me. We are one. There is only that which is God. So there is no those people locked up, those people who are sick, those people who, that's othering. And what we tend to do is not bother with the others, rather than engaging the spiritual practice and enveloping all of humanity, knowing that there is only that which God is. So when we pull in, we embrace. When we open up, we invite. We don't push, we don't shun, we don't elbow, we don't stay in our own lane. Meaning if we're driving, analogy, if we're driving down the road and you happen to see a 3-year-old wandering down the highway, off on the side of the road, do you keep on driving? You don't dial 911, you don't slow down. Tracy's like, no, I don't know if that's a
no. The no was for the first question.
Just making sure, because Tracy's like, it ain't my child, I don't know.
I'm not that bad.
Okay, I'm just saying. So the idea is, do you dial 911? Do you slow down and look to see if there's someone around? What do you do? Do you react in fear saying, yeah, I'm not getting out, I think she's bait? Because the moment I stop my car, somebody's going, what is the consciousness and the paradigm that drives you to not help, to not serve, to not be of assistance? Because if we don't change that paradigm, then the 3-year-old continues to wander. The 3-year-old may get hit by a car. The 3-year-old may die of exposure. We are invited to see the homeless person on the corner and recognize they are no different than the 3-year-old. We are invited to see our brother or sister who is harboring so much hate and animosity that they, like this child, are alone seeking assistance, even though they may not know it. Are we willing to step in some way, shape, or form and serve? Maybe that's prayer. Maybe that's a phone call. Whatever it is, are we willing to step in? Meaning, are we willing to change our paradigm and be a different person? Be a different being? Ernest Holmes says, "We need not leave the world, for we may engage in all of its activities without being controlled by them. We may be in the world of affairs as masters of ourselves and of our own minds." So this is reminding us then that there is no activity that is ultimately non-spiritual, per se. Like I can go get the mail, that's a spiritual activity. And when I go knowing that this is a spiritual practice, it changes the way I respond. It changes how I show up. I'm not just going to get the mail, but it's how am I showing up as a person. So when I go outside and I see the neighbors, do I speak? Do I wave? So now the going to get the mail is an act of interaction as I wave to them, as I speak to them. "Hey, Sean, how's it going? What's up, John? Hey, Butch." It's an interactive quantum field. How am I interacting with any aspect or part of God? How am I showing up as the light of the world? How am I showing up as that which recognizes and knows that God is in me, is as me, and that which it is me? There is no separation. How do I show up with that? Because if I'm not, then I'm doing a disservice, not just to myself, but to everyone as well. Think about the teacher that shows up in the classroom who really doesn't care about teaching. They're doing a disservice to their students. Think about the doctor in the ER who really doesn't want to be there for whatever reason. They're doing a disservice to every patient and every nurse and every staff member because of their apathy or their non-commitment to serving as they said they were going to serve. They're doing a disservice. They're doing a disservice to the title, teacher. They're doing a disservice to the occupation, doctor. They're doing a disservice to the expanse of creation by saying what I am not, or by buying into precedent. I am dirty, I am wet, I am muddy. Making that a statement of truth and living, moving, and having their beingness from that, rather than from principle. We are each called to action. Saying nothing and doing nothing is not an option. The Centers for Spiritual Living, our parent organization, the mission, purpose, and vision is mission. To provide, that's a verb. To provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken, verb, to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. So how do we do this? We do it in a multitude of ways, but we treat and we move our feet. We recognize that no matter how we are showing up as teacher, as producer, as creator, as leader, as whatever ways that we show up, we are showing up and letting our light so shine that nothing that was remains exactly as it was. George Lucas changed the way all film is created. Industrial light and magic is touching ways in other films that it's everywhere. Walt Disney changed animation. Coretta Scott King and Dr. Martin Luther King changed what it means to be an African American and to move in a world that is beyond segregation. Ruth Bader Ginsburg changed what it means to be a Jewish woman in the Supreme Court and changed what it means to serve the judicial system. Teachers change minds. Fred Rogers changed the way parents and teachers and people interact with children and changed the way those children grow up to be adults who become ministers. Are we willing to step in and change the very structure of everything that we touch and everywhere that we show up in the same kind of and even more powerful ways? Are we willing to let our light so shine? Matthew 5:14-16. You're a light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they set the light on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light so shine before other people, that they may see your good deeds. They may see the way you move your feet. And in so doing, they see and recognize the power of the divine as it shows up in you and through you and as you, and their lives are changed by it. In the same way that the light now in a dark house, the room is lit for everyone in there. There is no more stumbling in the dark. I lit the candle, or Tracy lit the candle. I didn't light the candle, but in her lighting the candle, I am now able to see. What if, when we are so illuminated in our awareness, in our feeling, in our showing up, that we don't even necessarily have to actively do anything, but by our very nature, the darkness is rescinded so that others can see. They can see a higher consciousness. They can see a higher way of living. They can see compassion. And not just see it, but they feel love and compassion and possibility. They see it. They feel it to such a degree that they are now enveloped by it. And they too recognize this as the truth of their being. This image of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, specifically identifies Jesus Christ, liberator. What we know in our teaching, the Declaration of Principles number 5, the We Believe's number 5 says, we believe in the complete and total emancipation, freedom from, liberation from every discord of every nature. We say we believe in that. Then we who believe that are standing as a liberator, as an emancipator, as a freedom fighter, to walk the streets knowing that this man, this woman, this being who is currently possibly experiencing homelessness need not, if they do not want to, they do not need to experience that. And so simply walking past them and acknowledging the power and the presence of the infinite I am ever becoming is who and what they are changes the vibration of creation around them. It stirs every cell in their body. There is only one mind, so when my mind thinks that thought and it's in the mind of God, then clearly that person, that being who is using the same mind is now potentially going to be a conduit for the thought that I planted in the law about them. And they may not be receptive to it today, but what do we also say? The emancipation, the liberation, the freedom from every discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. So I don't need to force or will my freedom on him. I can surrender and know that what I plant into the law, what I plant into the one mind, is and will affect them. Now, that doesn't mean that if they ask me for $1, I may give it, or I may say, well, are you hungry? I'll get you some food. that may be what I feel called to do. Whatever it is, if I am going to be present, if we are going to manifest or demonstrate a world that works for all, then it means we must be present and active and engaged and committed to what it means to speak up, to stand up, or kneel when necessary. What does it mean to know that we are being sent, as Ezekiel says, being sent into a rebellious nation, the people who may be obstinate, stubborn. But in this, do not be afraid of what you are being called to do. Do not be terrified by what they may say. Speak these words of truth to them. And whether they listen or fail to listen, doesn't matter. You listen to the truth. You act upon the truth. Doesn't matter who does or does not. You do it. Even when your voice shakes, speak the truth. Even when your knees tremble, stand in and for the truth. Now let's pause for a second, because there are many in our spiritual circles who allow the word game mumbo jumbo of word soup to boggle their minds, and they get committed to what I said before about precedent. They get committed to the words. And yes, words matter. But I know, and I've had a lot of conversations with folks who are so stuck in the rut of other and duality and quote unquote the negative, that anytime we say someone is anti or something is anti, or we talk about resist, like this comes up a lot with this concept of being, how to be an anti-racist. And people they push back. Anti, I'm not anti, be for, not against. And what you resist persists. I hear you. But let us not forget that we are then allowing those mumbo jumbo words to boggle us. Because when we talk about antifreeze, we ain't got a problem with that. We ain't got a problem with anti-stick cookware. We ain't got a problem with an anti-inflammatory diet. We ain't got a problem with antibiotics. We ain't got a problem with any of those. We don't have a problem with fire-resistant clothing. So is it the word, or is it what you're holding the word to mean? See, when you hold the word and you're like so myopic and closed-minded to that word, then you're bound by precedent. You are both in the world and of the world at that moment, because you are separating and making certain things are more spiritual than other things. We can't talk about what's anti because anti is bad. We can't talk about what you resist because when you resist, it will persist. Okay, then I want you to get rid of all this stuff out of your closet, out of your garage. Don't put it in your car. Don't make sure all your clothing, so let's be clear. When we get caught up in this word soup stuff, then we are not really paying attention. We are not really showing up to the fullness of how we could. What do I say to the world with my actions? What are my actions showing the world? Keeping in mind that it's easy to look like we are acting or moving when really we aren't. Just like the statue. There are many sculptures and statues that give the appearance of movement, but really it's not moving, and we know it's not moving. So the question is, inaction or inaction? Which of these describes how we are showing up? Am I being a person who is inactive? I'm not engaged. Or am I a person who is showing up in the very activity of creation, of being God on earth, being God in earth, being God living and moving and having its beingness? Am I willing to let whatever my action be imperfect in the moment per se, simply to be in action, to be a voice of the divine love in action? Am I willing to move? Am I willing to treat and move my feet? Reverend Dr. William Barber says, not saying something is not an option. You can't see injustice and say nothing. You can't see an abuse of human beings because of their race, their creed, or their sexuality and not say something. The prophetic call demands that we say something. How will the haters learn that they're wrong unless they learn of God's love? And in terms of, because I know, I hear some of y'all, you stuck on those words, haters and wrong. I know, I hear it. And not necessarily those of you watching me live, but some of y'all watching a recording later, that word, hater, that word, wrong, keep in mind what we're referring to is those who choose to hate or other people. How will they learn that their consciousness right now is a consciousness based on precedent and not principle? How will they learn unless we love them through it? Unless we set the example. We can't choose silence. We can't choose inaction. We must choose to be in action. To be those who treat and move our feet. Today's application and practice. Identify 3 things in your life that you want and are willing to heal, shift, and change. What are the spiritual practices that will assist you in facilitating that? Identify 3 things in your neighborhood, your community, your city, that you want to and are willing to heal, shift, and change. And what are the spiritual practices that will help facilitate that? Identify 3 things in the country that you want to and are willing to heal, shift, and change. Yes, you guessed it. What are the spiritual practices that will facilitate it? And lastly, identify 3 things in the world that you want and are willing to heal, shift, and change. And yes, what are the spiritual practices that will facilitate it? If we're not willing to get to the nitty-gritty, we do it with our body. Oh, there's a pain in the tooth. Am I willing to go get it taken care of? Does that mean Ambisol? Does it mean dentist? What does it mean? Am I willing to have this healed or shifted or changed in a manner that allows me to live, move, and have my beingness in the best possible way? If we are not willing to even engage in such a practice as this and identifying what we want to see, what it means to be in a world that works for all, if we're not willing to even do this, then it's just a game for our own spiritual pleasure. It's just a game that we pretend that we are working on a world that works for all. We're just pretending to be in action, when really we are frozen and simply appearing to be moving. Today's declaration, our affirmation, I'll read it first and then us together. I live as a conduit of compassion because I am love. I stand for love in the world. I am engaged, invested, and active in a world that works for all. Together, I live as a conduit of compassion because I am love. I stand for love in the world. I am engaged, invested, and active in a world that works for all. And we breathe and let all of this juiciness sink in. Let us feel whatever we feel as we prepare our minds, our hearts, our very beingness for the demonstration through her craft, through her way of treating and moving her feet through the gift of music. We now welcome back Celia to grace us with her gifts as she, a conduit of compassion through music, gifts us. Put your hands together. Whoa! Wow, yes. Let each of us do what it is that we are called to do to make it so that everything that Celia just put into the law with that beautiful song that we know right here and right now that it is, and that what is ours to do to make this so. And we breathe. Wow. Thank you so much, Celia. That was beautiful. Tracy was sitting here with like something like she was with you. I just need to put her on blast. I know, Dana, leave Tracy alone. I got you. So at this point of our service, it is time to tithe, offer, and demonstrate what we know and recognize as spiritual abundance in the support of where we are spiritually fed and in the support of our spiritual community and the work that we are doing. Reminder, for those who may not know this, well, this is new information, not a reminder for those of you who don't know. It's information. We know, Tracy.
You got it together.
The practitioners of the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Baltimore have pledged $5,000 to the expansion of CSL Greater Baltimore. $5,000 by the end of 2020, and thus far to date it's $4,322.50.
In addition to their.
And this is in, thank you, this is in addition to their regular tithing to the center. The community has, in order to match this, thus far pledged $775. And let us keep in mind that there is another donor, tither, supporter, who has said whatever this number, this current number, 775, whatever that number is, up to $5,000 by the end of the year, they will also match that number.
Woo, woo.
Just an added incentive. So how do you tithe or donate to the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Baltimore?
My fault.
Well,
I'm catching up now.
you have PayPal, text messaging, and the postal service. The regular good old postal mail. Yes, we still use it. You may use any of these. You may put in a memo or a note that you want a certain portion of your tithe donation given to a certain thing such as emergency care, hospitality, youth ministry, building fund, etc. Or you simply leave it as a general tithe and donation, and this amazing board of trustees that we have will govern that accordingly as the amazing stewards that we are, or that they are, that we all are as a community, and make sure that we are demonstrating what it means. We are demonstrating what we know that CSL Greater Baltimore not only can be, but what it is now and is ever becoming. For more information about anything tithe related, you can always email any of us on the board, but you can also go to cslgreaterbaltimore.org/giving. When we are ready, let's anchor ourselves in what it means to know that we are the divine stewards in, through, and as our own lives, and that as we collectively come together in this aroma, this energy, this vibration of stewardship, that we are giving from that place. We are giving from that consciousness, not seeing job as source of our income, not seeing Social Security check as the source of our income, but recognizing that there is only one source, one power, and one presence, and that it is individualizing itself as us. So the manner in which God is stewarding its own gifts, time, talent, and treasure is how we, same thing we said before about those values, how are we bringing those values forth? So let us declare together. I joyfully, consciously, and gratefully participate in the law of circulation. I trust in the spiritual principle that says, as I sow into my beloved community, I demonstrate my awareness of standing not only in the flow, but as the flow itself. As I sow of myself, my time, my treasure, my talent, I demonstrate my support and engagement in my community's vision, mission, and purpose. I actively give as a demonstration of manifesting, of reaping the harvest
of a world
that works for all. And we breathe, and it's this time of service that I remind you that Tracy said, make today an awesome day. When you step out of wherever you are, some of us are on a beach, some of us are at a cabin, some of us are in our apartments, in our homes, but wherever it is that we are, let us remember and recognize that in this moment, we can choose to make it a beautiful day in the neighborhood. We can choose to make it a beautiful day in the neighborhood of our minds, the beautiful neighborhood of our hearts, the beautiful neighborhood of our friends and family and neighbors, the beautiful neighborhood called planet Earth. That in our making today an awesome day, we are setting into motion the vibration, the ripples, the light that changes and transforms the world. It truly is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reminder, after service today, you may meet with a practitioner for one-on-one spiritual mind treatment. If you are desiring to have prayer, type in the chat box prayer so Tracy knows. If you are also wanting prayer but also want to stay for the board meeting, type prayer and board meeting so we know, or both. Tracy said, or you can just type both and she'll know what that means. So we know that once you are done with prayer, you are intending to move into the board meeting. Otherwise, other than that, if you desire to stay for the board meeting, all are welcome. It's an open, completely transparent community gathering, so you are more than welcome to stay for that. And at this time, we are already anchored in grounding and knowing that the infinite power that is right here, who and what we are. We are more than just a conduit for compassion, but that we are the very essence of compassion made flesh. And so we go out and we do that. We live that. We breathe it. We speak it. We think it. We feel it. And we serve from that state of consciousness. And we breathe and know how good it is. And at this time, service is now completed. Frank and or Jim will open up the mics for everybody to say, I love you. Thanks for being here, and share all your amazing beautifulness with everyone. Woo! Blessings, everybody.
Blessings.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Love y'all.